Hello, and welcome back to the Faye Banner Review, where we talk about all the wonderful things this game has planned for the year. That includes all the terrible things as well, but thankfully that isn't the case this time around. Today, we have a brand new Sacred Stones banner featuring an assortment of characters that are both sacred and stones. It's a pretty cool lineup, yeah, and as per tradition, I will be using this coveted line graph that may or may not be a line graph at the end of the day to rank the brand new Sacred Stones banner, as well as the circle graph that may or may not be a circle at the end of the day alongside it. Today's rankings will be based on how tired I am, and you sure won't get tired of something if you subscribe to the channel. Thank you, I'd really appreciate it. First up, we have Lara Shell, and she's a rearmed staff unit. The last rearmed staff we had was all the way back in early Book 8 on Hortensia, so it's been a good bit. It makes sense though, since they have so many weapon types to get through as is. It was imperative that Blue Tomes and Dragons got 2 Arcanes last book. Glad we got a new staff at least. Let's see. Lara Shell comes with Arcane Latona, which is a slaying staff that grants the imbue status to herself and allies within 3 spaces at the start of the player phase or enemy phase. It grants Spectrum 15 during combat, 25 true damage, 15 true damage reduction, 50% damage reduction piercing, and after start of turn effects go off in the player phase and enemy phase, she and allies within 3 spaces of her have their stat penalties neutralized and 2 penalty effects removed. Lara Shell also comes with a PRFA slot in Peerless Beauty, which grants cancel affinity to herself and allies within 2 spaces at the start of the turn and inflicts -7 speed and res, Triangle Adept, Sabotage, and the Flash status on the closest foes and foes within 2 spaces of them, and reapplies those penalties after taking an action. Lara Shell gets an additional Spectrum 9 during combat, 7 true damage, 7 true damage reduction, full no follow-up, and potent follow 100% if she can meet a speed check. Where do I begin with this? Oh, I know. Let's start with the weapon. Lara Shell comes with Arcane Latona, which is putting Ninja Saylene's cleansing effect into an arcane is wild. I didn't think they'd put that into an inheritable. Cleansing 2 penalties is fine on its own, but it applies within 3 spaces, which elevates it a lot more. That's also on top of imbue, which they really like printing as of late. We've gotten a lot of units with that status recently, which is weird to think about, but it is a solid status, so why not? It's actual support, which is something staff units have been missing out on from their weapon options for so long. They only had Bouquet Baton, which wasn't even that bad, but it's all they could really choose from. Now every staff unit without a discernible PRF skill can be the same thing again, but better. Newer arcane weapons really feel like they're succeeding at being both supportive and combative now, which is great to see. But on the exclusive side of things, you still have Lara Shell, doing Lara Shell things. Inflicting Triangle Adept while granting allies cancel affinity is pretty solid. It just makes it so there's no real downside to the Triangle Adept debuff, which is important. The last thing you want your support unit doing is providing the opposite of support. Inflicting Sabotage and Flash on top of that is decent too, but I think it's carried by the fact that she can inflict it after taking an action too. If it was only at the start of the turn, it wouldn't be that great, but as a staff unit, she can easily inflict those penalties up to 3 times per turn, which is amazing. No matter what, you'll have a really good chance at keeping those penalties active. Her PRF skill also has potent follow 100%, which is cool, I guess. It means she can reliably defeat armors that are over a year old. I give her an E for effort, and an L, A, R, C, and H for the rest of the letters in her name.
I see.
Lara Shell also comes with a bunch of inheritable skills, including Ice Lock Plus, Holy Panic, Attack Speed Hone Assault, and a brand new B slot in Preamp Amplify, which has built-in Canto 2, inflicts speed and res penalties on the foe during combat. It grants Preamp Pulse and Attack Liberate if the unit uses a rally or movement assist skill to themselves, the target, and any ally within 2 spaces of the target. It grants allies with Preamp Pulse active 7 true damage during combat, and grants upwards of 15 true damage to the unit based on the amount of allies with Preamp Pulse active. This is a really good B slot. I remember when Called to Serve dropped and that was considered ridiculously good. This feels like a massive step up to that. On top of the newer statuses, it has built-in Canto 2, which is really great. It also works on any staff unit, which makes it the easiest form of accessible Canto they have access to. On Flyers and Cavalry, it's a no-brainer because you can pair it with Shadow skills for extra mobility support. Infantry don't have the same benefit, but it's extra stuff on top of what they can already provide. And armors, well, they still suck, but now they could suck with Canto. Assuming it's also the same prerequisite as Called to Serve, you should be able to inherit basically everything from Lara Shell really easily, which is super nice. But yeah, it's just a really good B slot overall, and when combined with the Arcane, you can make a lot of staff units workable. Maybe not the armors, but it could be worse. It could not be any worse. And other than that, that sure is Lara Shell. It feels weird talking about something new because it feels like the last several banners were just copy and pasted units. Lara Shell had the benefit of not getting any content for years, which works out here. She and the Arcane are pretty great, and I could see a lot of people getting a good amount of mileage from them. Unfortunately, this is where the banner peaks.
See.
Next, there's Morva, and he's Morva-ing it, I guess. I don't know. It's a character that hasn't been represented in Fae up until now, so that's good enough for me. I'll gladly take more new additions to the game that I will also not summon for. Nothing personal. Let's see. Morva comes with Purging Breath, which has built-in IO shield, grants Canto remaining +1, minimum of 2, Slaying, adaptive damage. It grants Spectrum 15 during combat, 25 true damage, 15 true damage reduction, another 15 true damage reduction when a foe's special goes off, Breath, and at the start of the player phase or enemy phase, he grants 6 visible defense and res, Fringe bonus, and Warp Bubble to himself and allies within 2 spaces of him. He sure does that, doesn't he? None of the stuff in this kit is even that bad, honestly. But also, none of the stuff in this kit is that great either. Morva really feels like one of the most average units we've gotten in a long while, but that might also be due to Arcane Outburst's existence. Both have anti-warp mechanics, except Purging Breath gives it out as a bonus. The combat stuff is the same, and instead of giving out worthless bonuses, Morva gives out Fringe bonus and has built-in Canto, which is pretty good. Fringe bonus is a good bonus for stat stacking, and the combination of minimum Canto with his flyer mobility lets him play into support a bit more with shadow skills and whatnot. That said, it's not that much of an upgrade over Outburst for the most part, but that's not the worst. If nothing else, you won't be replacing his weapon for an Arcane. At least until the next one drops. I expect his weapon to be gone by the end of the year. Morva also comes with Dragon Flame, Dragon Scales, and an Attack Res Hold Guide. You could tell he's a normal pool unit because of the B slot. Hold Guide is a pretty nice skill, at least. It's just Omni Guidance with innate warping, which is great as a filler C slot. You can't really go wrong with that on many units. Dragon Flame is a good inheritable dragon special, but it being defense leaning can make it harder to pass around at times. And Dragon Scales is worth inheriting if you really hate the character you're giving it to. It's a nice way of expressing to others that they deserve the absolute worst. In that circumstance, it's a great skill. But yeah, as far as Morva's fodder is concerned, it could have been a lot worse for sure. It not all being dragon exclusive stuff definitely makes it better in the end. I think I would have taken Attack Defense Scout over this B slot. And other than that, that sure is Morva. He's perfectly okay with perfectly okay fodder. It's about as average as it gets for a normal pool unit, but I'll gladly take that over a lot of the ones we've been getting as of late. Morva can at least provide something useful, so good job. You achieved the bare minimum. And then there's Franz, and yep, that's him right over there. Franz. It's cool seeing him get into the game now. It feels like just last year, people wanted Franz to get in the year before the year where people were asking for Franz to get in the year before that year where people were asking for Franz to get into the game. 9 years of begging just for this moment. And now comes 9 years of begging for a refine. Let's see. Franz comes with Melee Lance Plus, which inflicts -5 attack, speed, defense, and res, and neutralizes breath effects on foes within 3 rows and columns centered on him. And it grants upwards of 20 true damage based on how many foes are near the target. That sounds about right, yeah. It's just a spring weapon from last year, except it's a lance now, which is decent enough. Not much else to say there. Franz has a nice stat line too, so he can be made into something workable at least. Not much else to say there. He also, actually, that's really about it. That's a demo for you, I guess. Not much else to say there. Franz also comes with Swap, Flow Refresh 3, and Rouse Attack Speed 3, and that's actually pretty nice. Flow Refresh makes skills like Assault Impetus and Potent Assault more accessible now because those 2 skills required Flow Refresh as a prerequisite specifically for some reason. But hey, now it's on a demo, so that problem is solved. The next problem is getting Franz instead of 500 other blue demotes that you don't want. Rouse Attack Speed is probably used for something, so I won't say no to that. And Swap can be used as a Swap Gate pre-fodder. Thanks, Faye. And other than that, that sure is Franz. Something something demote, something something antonym for good. What's new? He's in the game, he has good pre-fodder. That's good enough in my eyes. What more could you even ask for? Well, besides the obvious, but let's be realistic here. And finally, we have Lute, and she's an aided hero this time around. Wait, that's still a thing? For context, the last aided unit we got was Yunaka from last February, nearly a year ago. Most people just assumed this gimmick was canned entirely. I'm genuinely surprised they even brought this back. Well, so much for that video. But hey, now we could get a giant floating eyeball pal thing. I take back all the bad things I probably said about this gimmick. This is actually peak. Let's see. Lute comes with Unequaled Tome, which is a slaying red tome with built-in pass. It inflicts -7 attack and res, sabotage, and null miracle on the closest foes and foes within 2 spaces of the target at the start of the turn and after taking an action. It grants Spectrum 15 during combat, 25 true damage, 15 true damage reduction, and super warping similar to Yunaka's warping, aka she could jump to a space within 2 spaces of that space if that space meets the space condition. Space. Lute also comes with a PRF slot and Superior Talent, which grants Visible Spectrum 9, nullifies adaptive damage, grants +6 attack and res, Creation Pulse, and cancel 1 at the start of the player phase or enemy phase, grants penalty neutralization to her attack and res, 7 true damage reduction, 50% damage reduction piercing, and a bonus to her attack stat based on 80% of the total bonuses between herself and allies within 3 spaces, as well as the highest total penalties between the target and any foe within 3 spaces of them. Unequaled Tome, and it has an equal amount of true damage, stats, and damage reduction to an arcane. What do you even do? Oh, right, you're Magic Yunaka! Except worse in almost every conceivable way. Now, as far as threat range is concerned, she can reach really far since it's basically the same as Yunaka. Move to a space within 2 spaces of a space within 2 spaces, space, blah, 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 blah. It basically amounts to warping up to 4 spaces away, which is really good. I love that Lute can warp up to 4 spaces away because it pairs really well with the 3 space condition in her A slot. Game design is my passion. It's mostly for the part that checks stat totals between herself and allies for her attack bonus, but I'm not really sure why they'd even give her a tether like that. In a way, it kind of restricts Lute from warping too far because it can end up making her weaker. They could have at least done an ally support thing or any other condition that doesn't clash with her warping. It's not the biggest deal, but it's weird regardless. That said, one aspect about her kit that I actually like is her ability to reapply her debuffs after taking an action. She can run something like Micaiah Ring for the assist Gale Force effect and won't have to worry about her mobility because of her warping capabilities. It's a nice way to ensure means of getting around Miracle in general. That said, I'm not that sold on her ability to reliably nuke things for the most part. It seems like Lute is trying to be a one-shot nuke when it's not exactly the most reliable niche to have, even with Null Miracle active. The extra damage she gets out of her A slot also isn't even true damage, it's just a bonus to her attack stat like how Ashera works. I get why they wouldn't want to make it true damage, but actually I don't. Why isn't it true damage? I guess it's supposed to work with her special that will be revealed in a bit. But yeah, it feels like she's missing an effect or two to really get going. It's not like she couldn't put in the work, but I'd have to see it in practice. We're not short on units with crazy threat range either, and she also needs Legendary Sakura to then run away after. If nothing else, she does excel in one role really well. Fodder. Lute also comes with Comet, Attack Res Lull Finish, and Preamp Ploy, and none of that is going to be in the main pool. I really don't get why aided units can't be in the main pool, especially since most of their fodder hasn't even been that crazy, with Lute being no exception. It is pretty solid stuff though. Comet is a nice damage dealing special and it has damage reduction in it, so plenty of units can make use of it. Preamp Ploy is another times pulse skill, but decent nonetheless, and Attack Res Lull Finish is a pretty great B slot for infantry mages in general. She has a really good amount of splashable skills worth passing around, and now I get why it can't be in the normal pool. Those skills are too usable, and by too usable, I mean not incredibly niche and or outdated by today's standards. Maybe if Lute had dragon skills instead, she'd be a normal pool unit. And other than that, that sure is Lute. She sure is potential unit, but she's far from bad at least. She has good range, solid debuffs, other things, but if there's anything worth taking away from this unit, it's that we shouldn't expect another aided unit until 2027 at minimum. And then for our freebie Grand Hero battle unit, we have Garcia. I'm kind of surprised they're just giving him out like this. I didn't think they had the budget to give out new free heroes anymore. Anyway, we have no idea what he does. Okay, bye! And now that we've gone over the brand new Sacred Stones units, I think it's time we rank the banner on the line graph that may or may not be a line graph at the end of the day. And would you look at that? The brand new Sacred Stones banner has earned a 5 out of 10. On the line graph, and based on my understanding of the banner, I believe that it would be best fit somewhere around this area of the circle graph. It's not a very strong banner, but it at least has some valuable things on it. Also, I didn't get a lot of sleep recently, and you may be wondering to yourself, should I stop wondering to myself? Which is a question I'm surprised hasn't been wondered by this point. But to answer your question, You shouldn't. This banner really isn't that good unless you're looking to update a favorite staff unit specifically, although Lara Shell herself isn't even that shabby as far as support units go. Even beyond the arcane weapon, she inflicts a good amount of penalties and can do it multiple times a turn, which means it will definitely stick consistently. Also, the amount of support C-slot options she has access to these days is really nice between shadow skills and the other cavalry C-slots. She's not even doing that bad. But as far as the rest of the banner goes, it really isn't that great. Lute feels like she's missing a key effect or two to really pop off, but at least she has solid threat range and inflicts good penalties. If nothing else, you could definitely outsource the necessary support, and the threat range alone will make her more than usable, but she isn't all that amazing either way. Morva is an okay enough unit because of support, but he's pretty generic as far as combat stuff is concerned. And Franz, we might need a new word for him if I'm using generic to describe Morva. But yeah, it's a pretty underwhelming banner overall that you really wouldn't regret skipping in the slightest. There's also way better banners that are currently active and worth prioritizing. The New Year's banner is a way higher value overall. It has so many amazing units and fodder that I hope you decide to pass around, because if I run into another New Year's time dollar in the wild, I'm going to be very upset. The Emblem Edelgard banner. I think the winter banner's still around, but I'm not even sure. It feels like we've been getting so many banners lately that it's hard to remember what's even active at this point. If it's still around, then that's a good shout too. But if you already pulled on those banners or don't even care about summoning on them, then I would just save the orbs. This banner really isn't worth sinking orbs into for the most part, TBH, 2BH, to be quite H. Yeah, I wasn't kidding about the sleep thing, so good night, morning, evening, one of those things. Bye!